welcome to Monetizing Innovation. I'm John Holcomb, the best-selling author of Creating Value Faster. Today, I'm very pleased to introduce Mike DeJong. He is a multi-unit franchise owner, business coach, and author of Grow Smart, Your Path to Freedom, Master the Transition from Operator to Owner. Based on in the Milwaukee area, Mike spent years working in the trenches of business ownership before cracking the code on how to step back from day to day and build a company that runs without him. He now coaches other business owners on how to make that same shift from operator to true owner so they can grow their revenue, reclaim their time, and build lasting freedom. Well, thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate you joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here today, John. Thanks for the invite.
No, absolutely. And it's so exciting to hear some of the work that you've been doing. I think one of the things that really resonates, just even from your introduction, right, is I think it's one of the most common problems that we have, right, as entrepreneurs and business owners is that time trap, right? We often think, well, if we just work harder and longer, we'll get it done, but it takes away from our time. So maybe you could just share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I call that the operator trap because just about anyone that starts a business, it does take, well, not just about, for everyone that starts a business, it does take hard work, dedication. And at first your HR and your production and your marketing and your sales and your all of the departments, and hard work tends to equal success. Like if I'm failing at something, I'll work harder at it. I've had this conversation with so many people. I just got to double down if I work an 8, I'll work 12. If I'm working 12, I'll work 16, 18 hours a day. I'll get it done. And you run out of time. There's only 168 hours in a week and you got to sleep some of them. You probably should eat something once in a while. I know you could do that while you're doing something, but there's some personal hygiene that has to happen. Like there's only so many hours you could work in a week. So you hit a limit where you're stuck and you cannot grow anymore in any meaningful way if you're the one that is driving every bit of that growth.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's that fundamental mindset shift, right? Where you have to go from being the operator to now I need to shift to be the architect, right? Of now, how do we build the business? And, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you use the word architect too, in mindset shift, because a lot of us, we get, business coaches, we pontificate. All you got to do is change your mindset, change your state, and everything will happen. And very few of us, I'm sure you're not one of these, John, and I know I'm not. Don't tell people how to do it. Just click a switch and change everything.
It's easy.
But I think for a lot of operators, making that mindset shift is understanding what type of leader they are. And there is as many leadership titles as there are probably stars in the universe. You got your charismatic leader and your domineering leader and your bureaucratic leader and your. But I think when it comes to business, there's 3 archetypes that every one of those fits in. And one of them I call the architect. That's the one that likes to build SOPs and figure out how everything works. And another one is I call them the GSD. We all know what GSD stands for, get done. And then the third one I call the hunter. They're the one that likes to go figure out the next deal. And as entrepreneurs, we have to do all of those, and we do all of those. One of them is our leadership home. One of them is a place where we love to reside. It's our comfort zone. It's where we go to when we're not feeling too good. We're not sure of ourselves. It's the place that's got us the greatest bang for the buck in the past. So we go there. And for example, your GSD person, they're the one that's cranking out the product and just making things happen all day long. And they don't have a lot of time to figure out, at least they don't think they do, SOPs, standard operating procedures, and they don't want to document. They're like, let's just go. Let's just get this. Let's go. We got to get product out. Let's just go. Then you take your hunter. It's like, I just want to go find a deal. I don't want to write up the deal, and I don't want to go through the deal process. And I just want to, I like hunting, and the architect, like you talked about, they like to put the processes together, but they're not good at getting stuff done necessarily. They're good at figuring out how it should be done, but maybe not getting it done, and maybe not so great at finding the deal. So if you could figure out which one of those you are, you could bring in some help to kind of smooth it out. And I wouldn't say that one of them is better than any of the others. There's money to be made in every one of those leadership styles. I compare them to an NBA team. Your GSD person's your player. And your star players are making tens of millions of dollars a year.
Exactly.
And your architect is your coach, and they know how to take all the player pieces, the star players and your bench sitters, and put them all together and make a cohesive team that can win. And the best ones make millions of dollars a year. And then you got your hunters. What would that be? Well, that's going to be your team owner. And they had to find the coach and maybe find the players, and they're the ones that are kind of putting the whole thing together. And they don't tend to do poorly either. So in any one of those, you could exceed and excel at what you do. It's just, which one are you? Because the team, the owner, it probably allows you coach. Most of them were not players back in the day. Most good NBA coaches were not players. So they know how to coach players, but they're not players. Most players don't make great coaches. Like, it's just, I'll have our home. So figure out which one you are. And then we could start with finding the pieces to fill in the other two that can do those things. And I'm sure you've done this before, John. I can't find anyone that can do this as good as me. How about we find someone that could do it better than me? There's your mindset shift. How do I find someone that could do these tasks that I don't like to do anyway?
Absolutely.
Better than me. And that's when you start escaping the operator trap and you start getting freedom, whatever that means to you.
Absolutely.
Diarrhea all over you and the listeners. I apologize. I'm very passionate about this.
No, it's great. I love that perspective too, because I think it's so true, right? And I think that self-identity is where it's often tough, right? Especially for the entrepreneurs, because so much of the self-worth has been the doing, right?
Yes.
That early operator role. And then finding out, well, where are your strengths and how do you build your team, right? Because it doesn't mean that you have to do all those things, which I think is the trap, right, that we fall into.
Right. And then we want to find people that are like us. So if we tend to be hunters, we want to hang around with other hunters because we know how to speak that language. And those architect types, like, oh, that stuff's just weird. I'm uncomfortable talking. You're not adding value to my business because I don't understand the language that you're speaking. For example, we're just humans. We like to flock together.
And it's funny too, because I think the best organizations I've seen are exactly what you did, is they recognize the need for all those different talents. And then how do you bring that team together, right? And, being fluid enough in terms of learning from each other, always kind of going with, I like to call it the student of the business, right? Where you go in and you just, hey, I'm here to learn. And you know that you're hiring folks better than yourself on these skill sets.
Yeah. And it's so unusual for it to happen. But it's like you said, the best people, the most successful entrepreneurs out there, that's exactly what they do.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be rare. It doesn't have to be. It's just a recognition and then take action.
How do you help folks work through that? Especially, I know as you've worked with teams and your own organizations too over the years. What are some of the techniques that you've tried to work through? Because like you said, it's not just the mindset, right? Part of it's then actually pulling the talent and skills together.
Yeah, the hardest part, I think you touched on it a minute ago, is the identity piece.
Yeah.
And even being honest in the identity piece. Like, I must be the hunter. I must be the entrepreneur because I started a business. Well, you could be entrepreneurial. You could have hunter tendencies, but it doesn't mean that you're a hunter. I could say from personal example, I really, when I first started realizing this and thinking about it, I'm like, I'm an architect because my background, I have engineering, I have aviation. I used to fly, corporate planes and stuff, and they're all process driven, right? It's all very systematic. And I'm like, that's me. That's who I am because of my background. And then I really started looking at what gives me juice and what sucks the energy out of me. And I'm like, I hate doing that stuff. Absolutely hate it. I could do it. I could be actually really good at it, but maybe not the best in the world. There's always someone better. I don't care who you're talking about. There's always someone better. My grandfather used to say the cemeteries are full of irreplaceable people.
I love that. I want to borrow that.
Yeah, go ahead. Just attribute it to Mel DeJong. So, anyway, and it's getting people to be honest with themselves. I mean, it took me, I'm guessing 2 years from when I kind of had this realization of you have these 3 archetypes to realize I was actually a hunter. I was uncomfortable with that label. I'm like, hunters are slimy salespepeople that go out and not necessarily. Those people do exist. I'm not saying they don't. The classic used car salesman. There's also some very wonderful used car salesmen out there. I want to be clear, but we all know when we say the used car salesman, you know, the slick back hair and the shiny suit and the we've seen them on the movies. That's kind of like what I had in my head if I was a hunter. I'm like, I'm not that person. Helping people to realize which one they are and becoming okay with it. And then not just becoming okay with it, embracing it, and then teaching the skills which I lacked initially and learned the hard way through incorrect hires and etc. How to find that actual talent, and then pay for that talent's the next piece, right? Because you get,
Absolutely.
like all things in life, you get what you pay for. So, you know, you want A players, you're going to pay A player prices. Like, you know, LeBron James and Michael Jordan don't cost the same as if you're hiring, you know, John or Mike. If we're going to go play the NBA, like they'd probably pay me right away, for example. You got some skills, John. I don't want to pretend to know how good you are at basketball, but
No, you called it right.
yeah,
I won't quit my day job.
right. So that's another mindset shift. I'm like, all right, well, let's see what your business is generating now and where we could find funds or organize a structure that as growth happens, they could bonus or et cetera to bring these people in. And then, okay, you get that piece in place. Then it's like, all right, now how do I find them?
Absolutely. And I really like though that you talked about that, especially finding the right skills and working with folks like that. And I do think it's so important, right? Especially in that early phase, right? Finding the right people that are a good fit for the organization is just huge, right? Because that's where you're really starting to branch out and try to grow.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 times we're hiring friends and family members. I'm guilty. I've done it. Please, I beg of you, everyone that's listening to this podcast, if you take one thing out of it, do not hire your friends and your family. Don't do it. I'm sure they're wonderful people. I'm sure they work hard. It's not worth it.
That is so true, right? You know, because that's a quick way to ruin a relationship.
Yes, or stagnate growth because like, oh, Mike's not doing his job, but you know, Mike's a dear friend or Mike's my brother or my cousin or something. So I could only say so much to Mike. And if Mike doesn't do it, it's like now I got to hire around Mike or find people to kind of pick up it's a disaster.
Absolutely. Mike, when we were just talking briefly before the show, you shared that you're also now a digital nomad, which I think is really kind of cool, right? Especially with the fact of where you are with your businesses and things like that. Maybe you could share a little bit how that came about and what that basically enables you to do now.
Sure, John. I love talking about that. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So my big theme through everything I do is getting people freedom, get them the freedom that they want. And for me, that was travel. I know for others, it's being home when their kids get home from school or having the weekends off or being able to go to their favorite chair. There's 1,000, 100,000, 100 million different types of freedom out there. It's whatever it means to you. But for me, it was travel. And I wasn't getting that until I kind of cracked the code to going from operator to owner. It was a stepping stone. I'm like, okay, well, first I'm going to maybe not go into my businesses every day. I'm going to go, you know, take a day, quote unquote, a day off. I'm still working from home, doing the same tasks. I'm just doing them on my kitchen table. I didn't have a home office at the time, but I'm not doing them from the desk in the business. And then I'm like, well, maybe I could do that 2 days a week or 3 days. And I'm finding I'm more and more productive not doing that. And then I'm going to do more stuff outside of the business, more of the stuff I love, the hunting. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I want to travel even more, I got to figure out how to bring in a hunter. So, you know, I brought in a hunter. He failed, brought another hunter. She failed, brought another hunter. That one I probably should have had charged for theft. Brought another hunter. Finally got it right. As you can see, it's kind of hard. And I didn't have a process around it, John. I was hiring. We can go into great depth on how I was hiring wrong before I figured out how to hire right. But I'm like, okay, I got that piece now. And I already had the manager pieces in place. And I kind of had the district level kind of stuff in place. I'm like, well, now I could start taking extended vacations. So I started taking, 2 and 3 weeks off at a time. A few years ago, I went to Africa for like, 2 weeks and came back, and that was great. And then took another 2-week vacation after being there. And then I'm like, a friend of mine wanted to go back to Africa for 2 weeks. I'm like, sure, let's go back. I've never been there in my life. Now let's go twice in a quarter. That sounds like a great idea. And from Africa, went to Hawaii for 2 weeks, which is a very long flight. I don't recommend that. It was a 12-hour time zone change. But and it was just to say, like, I just started extending the trips. and seeing each time what broke. And whatever broke, I'm like, oh, there's something that I'm still responsible for. Now, how am I going to put a process in place that's going to, make sure that doesn't happen in the future? And I got better at making process. In other words, I got lazier. I just started recording them with Descript or Loom. Sometimes I'd use my cell phone and just record what I'm doing, and I'd send that video. Never look at the video, John. Never ever. We all hate how we sound. We all hate how we look. It's okay to people. I'm like, if there's anything you're not understanding, just let me know. And those things got fewer and fewer to the point I'm like, I'm going to leave the state. And I left the state, and I'm like, I'm going to go back monthly. Then I'm going to go back quarterly. Well, now I'm only going to go back a couple times a year. Oh, geez, I could run this from anywhere. I'm now going to sell everything and put what I have left in my car and become a digital nomad. And I did that starting last December, and it's great. I spend 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks in a place. And I say maybe 8 weeks because this place I'm at will be coming up on 8 weeks, but I'm ready to move on. But it's just, where am I going to go next? I don't know. But I'm blessed. I got a laptop and a phone, and that's all I need because I have the right people in place to run things now. And I'm still working. It's not like I just play all day, but it's, the things I look at has changed, and the people I hired to do it has gotten better, and their skills have gotten higher. And it's a domino.
I can imagine too, what a rewarding experience, right? When you're able to now turn some of it over to the team, right? To drive a lot of the day to day and do what they do best, like you said earlier. And you still get to do what you do best,
Yeah, it's fun. I managed to actually sell the Wisconsin stores, and now I just have Washington State stores, and I'm expanding out there. I'm going to build a few more. It's just because I found out I like building them. I don't necessarily like running them. So, okay, let's build out an area, and then let's move on and do something else. That's kind of fun. Let's just keep doing the things that make you happy.
Yeah,
take care of some people along the way and change people's lives. I mean, there's nothing more noble than putting food on other people's tables. So.
Yeah, I mean, there is something very rewarding about that, right? Especially when you can help others out and help others grow in that capacity as well.
I look back at my corporate career and I just see people that were doing things that I never dreamed I could. And I'm like, I had a piece of that. I just love that. I love watching people grow.
Yeah, and I think especially in today's environment, right? I think it's even more important to try to help others grow because, folks aren't staying in the same companies, right? As long as they used to. You don't have the tenure that, we once had. And being able to, help folks grow and get that real world experience, right? It's so important.
Yeah. And I God, just this morning, I cannot remember the statistic. And of course, 90% of statistics are made up on the spot, but more small businesses were started in the US last year than any prior year. I'm like, that's incredible. I love that. So there's that many more people that need our help, John.
Exactly.
So they could not make the mistakes that we made. Well, I can't speak for you, John, but use me as an example, even if it's a bad example, and don't make the same mistakes, and just go forth and have the freedom that you deserve.
No, I really love that too. And I think, kind of your approach too, when you just think about that, you really have led through delegation, right? Especially now that you've become a digital nomad and are exploring the country. What are some of the things that you found were the most difficult about making that transition?
I still fall into this. We all have remember where our faults are, because the mistakes are almost always with us. Well, with me. I'm sure I'm different. No, we're all the same. We're all human. And I have this tendency that I think people can just read my mind. I could just say a few words and they know exactly what to go do. And by the way, they've had the same, 30, 35, whatever years of work experience that's identical to mine. And they've done all the same things. So they have all the same, ideas about how things should go together. And of course, they're going to get this perfect result. I just assume that. Yeah, that's of course not the case. We've all had many varied paths that have brought us to where we are in different situations, and we all see the world differently. And we're all me-centric as much as we don't want to believe that, but we all are. And so remembering that, so now instead of the D&D method, delegate and disappear, I kind of like, all right, did you know or do you know what I want? I try to do this ahead of time, not after the fact.
Yeah.
Do you know what I want? Do you know how to do it? Like, do you have the skill set? Do you have all the things you need to be able to do it? Do you understand the priority level? I've had things where I'm like, why isn't this done? Well, you gave me three other tasks after that one, and I would assume that they were more important than this one. You're like, well, no, this is the most important one. You're like, I didn't know that. Like, how did they know? Right? There's just like kind of a checklist you go down to make sure that okay, this is priority 1 or 3 or 5, or this is your fill in if you have nothing else to do. But by the way, let's put an artificial deadline of 6 weeks, which is not artificial. I really want you to hit it, etc. And then periodic, this is the other part. I would just be like, all right, are you done? No? Oh, crap. Why not? How about checking in? Do you still have everything do you need? Like, do you still understand? Oh, you're kind of off course here. Let's course correct. I must have not have explained it very well to you. And again, it's on me. We all thought we had alignment and agreement at the beginning, but words are hard and we all interpret them differently. President Clinton taught us that. And, you just have to keep coming back. And it's not a blame game. It's just, let's just keep the communication going. And then for all of us, me especially, it's just being able to let go. It's like, especially the things you really like. I like doing that part, but do you have to? Because that's going to get in the way of you being a digital nomad. So do you have to do that thing? Or can you find someone better? And they're probably going to do it different. And so they're doing it different and they're better. And that kind of hits the ego a little bit. But it's like, okay, but they're doing it. And I'm sitting here down in Galveston, Texas, a block and a half from the beach. Like, all right, I'm okay with that. Let's let them do it their way.
It's funny you say that too, because I do think that was probably one of the first toughest lessons, right? When you make that first leadership turn, is really, literally letting some of those things go and just knowing that, okay, it is going to be done different. They'll do it their way. And as long as it gets done, it gets done. But it is tough because sometimes you find out, wow, they're way better at it than I am. And, and the ego comes back in.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to circle back on one thing there, though, is some things, there are processes that, like, this is the best way to get to 8. And sometimes it's like you really have no clue and you got to let an expert come in. And I used to joke with people, and I use this exact term, like, in your job, I don't care how you get me to 8. I don't care if you do 7 + 1. I don't care if you do 4 + 4. I don't care if you do 2 + 6, 9 - 1, whatever. Just get me to 8. And then I came to realize over years, I'm a slow learner. Oh, wow. The people who are doing it 4 + 4, they're making a lot more money and taking a lot less time than the people are saying doing 9 - 1, because they're actually like taking things away from people, and it's taking 10 times as long and costing us 8 times as much. Like, how about we all do it 4 + 4? And people didn't like that because like they all had their own way to do it. So there are places where systems and processes absolutely make sense. And that's something I really was late to the game with. But then when you bring in the new expert, if they're the expert, let them do their expert stuff. Like, don't force them into your mold. Let them fly a little bit with guardrails.
Yeah, I love that too, because I think you kind of just touched on it there as well, is, part of it is building systems that scale. And it sounds like you've had multiple experiences, right? Trying to figure out the right recipe and I think for all business owners, right? That is like one of the most difficult things to really find those systems. What are some of the recommendations you have for folks, of finding out what needs to be systematized versus, hey, we can be a little bit more loose in the execution?
Sure. I'll drop another line here. If there's only 2 things you take away from the podcast, this would be the second one: is build systems early. Early. Don't wait for years. And when you're on vacation and people quit on you, and then you're working your vacation from the hotel room. I might have done that. Don't do that. That's not fun. So the quick rule of thumb for me is if it has 3 steps or you do it more than 3 times in a year, you should probably have a system or a process. And it's really that simple. So then which ones do you do first? Some people, they're like, I don't want to do this. I'm going to systematize it right away so someone else can do it. And other people, like, they have to have their arms around all of it. And it's like peeling stuff off. But, or the whole, I don't have time. I'm already working 80, 100 hours a week. I don't have time to do systems. But it could be the next thing you do, because when would now be a good time to start systemizing stuff? Like, not like I'm going to wait till next week when I do when I do my inventory that I do, because I'm the only one that could do it properly, or whatever. When would now? Pick one right now. As soon as you're done watching this podcast, pick one. And then here's what you do. It's really simple. You get a free Loom account or a free Descript account or any of those other, record yourself as you're working at the computer accounts. That's just a couple I've used personally. I'm sure there's dozens out there. They're even better. I don't know. Not sponsored by anybody. Or you take your cell phone. I don't care how you do it, but you record whatever task it is you're doing. If you're doing it at the computer, you just sit there and you just talk and you ramble on. Like, okay, I'm going to this website and I'm clicking on this thing, and then I'm going to go click on this other thing, and here's what I'm looking for. And if it's doing this, then I think it's great. And if it's not doing that, I do this other task. And if it's something you physically have to go out and move or interact, yeah, you're going to have to set your camera up in a corner and just record yourself doing it. But whatever, don't overcomplicate it. You don't have to sit at the computer and go, okay, A and B subset 1 and B subset 2 and B subset 2 I you get the idea. Like don't do that. Just record it and then don't look at it again. This is the theme with me. Don't look at it. We all hate it. Give it to someone else to do. And if they could do it, great. You got a policy or a procedure. If they can't, then what didn't you understand? Okay, well, it's this, and this. Let's try it again. If they got it, great. Give it to a third person. If they could do it, great. If you're a solopreneur, fine. At least now do it the same way every time. Don't remake it up every single time. Maybe you get a virtual assistant. Maybe there's an AI tool you could train to do it for you. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but start with the systemization. Words are hard, John. As early as possible in your system. And then the thing that a lot of us fail at, myself included, again, I'm speaking from like, I've been in the crap. I have lost so much time and money. It's disgusting. But I lived. So that's why I love to talk about it, because I lived. Is these things have to be evergreen. So just because you've always done it this way doesn't mean you always have to do it that way. You got to look every once in a while. What got you to 100,000 in sales will probably break before you get to 1 million in sales. Will probably break before you get to 10 million. Will absolutely break before you get to 100 million. It's just the way of the world. But just know that and just be ready to make changes. And that's okay. Don't make them so rigid. Like, John, how come you didn't follow the procedure? Well, if I would have done that, we would have lost this $100,000 deal. Okay, I'm glad you broke that, but you don't want to have that conversation. But you see it. I've watched it happen. I'm like, hey, let's go see how you interact with people. I'm just like, oh my God, like you need to have some. Mike, I got a procedures in place. Yeah, you do, but you're following them too rigidly.
Exactly. And I think you bring up a very good point there too, because so many folks think about systems and procedures, right? That it needs to be rigid. And I think what you really help point out is like, no, it needs to be sufficient to get what you need to get done. And it needs to be flexible enough, right, as you change and grow to be able to accommodate the change.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I'm going to butcher an Einstein quote, and it's like, it has to be as simple as possible, but no simpler. Yeah, I fell into this. I think it's a humorous aside. We're writing one for, I know how to clean the bathroom, but we found out people were missing things, like they'd clean the toilet, but not the sink, or they wouldn't wipe down the mirror or whatever. We all come from different skill sets in our lives. Some people are cleaner than others, whatever. It's not a big deal. So let's cover the things. And then we found out, why was the water left on all last night? Well, you said turn on the water to rinse the sink, but you never said turn it off. It wasn't in the procedure. I'm like, okay, so we'll add turn off the water. I don't know if so we did that. And then a few months later, we hired some new people, and they're cleaning the bathroom or whatever. And the next day we come in, and I get a call, and I'm like, hey, there's no water in the bathroom. I'm like, what do you mean there's no water in the bathroom? We can't figure it out. There's no water in the bathroom. I'm like, well, we can't do our tasks at this particular restaurant without water. So we're going to have to not do that. Everyone's going to sit around, pay payroll while we get a plumber come in to turn the valve back on underneath the sink because the person the night before turned off the water. And then I had this realization, John, that maybe I just need better people. No, that's not true. I got it so rigid in so many detail and every step that there was no room for people to use their own common sense and intelligence. We just didn't have any wiggle in it. And we kind of backed off to okay, clean the sink, rinse out the sink. We didn't tell people how to do it, not turn the water on, rinse out the sink, turn the water off. We just kind of went backwards. So you get too granular in these things. And I laugh about it now, but it cost a few $1,000s in production and lost opportunity and upset customers because they didn't get their stuff that they were planning on having that morning. And, it just because of a procedure that was just too rigid.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. Over the years, I've worked in some of the regulated industries as well, and it is funny because it's like they do try to proceduralize everything, and sometimes, to your point, if you don't leave enough judgment for the person, then things go wrong. You find out where the weak link is, right? Because things do get broken and things go down.
Yes.
I love the sing example, though. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. You're saying like, don't.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that you mentioned too, in some of the examples too, as you were talking about the growth, what are some of the different growth plateaus you've observed, and how did you help your team work through some of those different growth plateaus?
So in different industries are different dollar amounts, but in general, it's getting to that first 6 figures. It's getting that first 7 figures. It's getting to that first 8 figures. So those are in general, but even there's mini plateaus in between. And I think it they stop becoming either customer centric or they get too wrapped around what policies and procedures we have. I had some bakeries and we love to do weddings. And we figured we could do 5 weddings at any bakery in a weekend. And because that's how we were set up to do it. And that's what our policy is. They were turning people away because there was no thought process. Well, maybe we should learn how to do 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 weddings. We could do 5. So we're turning people away. So it was like that mental jump, like, oh, we got people asking, maybe we should figure out the next piece. Or, we were so customer centric that we wanted everything to be 100% custom all the time. And that takes a lot of resources and time. And we figured out, okay, how can we dial this back where we give them choices within the guardrails? So they still get a great product and they get to make some ideas and customize it, but it's not infinitely adjustable. And that freed up a lot of capacity in time. Or even how we're doing different production. It's like, you have to do this and then you have to do that and you do it in this way. It's like, well, maybe if we reverse these 2 steps, we could quadruple what we're doing. Oh my goodness, that makes so much sense. And then it's getting past the resistance of it. It's like, well, I've always done it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Cannot tell you how many times I've walked into a place. I'm like, hey, didn't we change that like 2 months ago? Yeah, but something we hadn't touched on, John, is following the policies and procedures. I touched a little bit on the GSD, the architect, and the hunter. And the architect, likes to write these things out, but they don't necessarily make sure they're being followed. Or even the hunter or the GSD. We took a few minutes and wrote something down, but people are still going 7 + 1 or 9 - 1. They're figuring their own way to get to 8. And sometimes it's just a little like, hey, you got to do it the written way. Oh yeah, and they do it because they realize you are paying attention. That's all it took.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little deeper conversations like, okay, why don't you want to do 4 + 4? Like, what's the reason? Like, what am I missing?
And sometimes those are the most insightful conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like, well, it's messier. Okay, well, how long does it take you to clean up the mess versus how much faster are we doing it the other way? Well, I don't know. And then you time study it and you're like, wow, cleaning up the mess takes 3 minutes and doing it our way saves 37. So maybe we should do it like the way we want to do it. Yes, it's a little messier. I get that you don't like a mess, but that's maybe what we need to do. Like, it's just getting to it. I don't know that this is the right way to do it, but I've had people that I've really, been with me for a while, that you care about, that you want to succeed, but they got to make this change. And sometimes they just won't make the change. And I've actually taken them outside the building and point at the sign. Does that say John's Cake Shop? No? All right. Then we're not going to do it John's way. And it's harsh, but like, I want you to work here. I love you, but really we got to make a change here.
Yeah. And sometimes that's what it takes, is just a little bit of fresh perspective, right?
Like I love and John, if you want to go start your own, I will support you. I will give you all the tools. I will help you set it up. I will help you in every regard because I love you and I want you to be a successful person. But if you're working here, you got to do Mike's way.
Exactly.
And usually like, all right. And I mean it. Like, if you did want to go, John, I would help you. That's, let's go.
Yeah, it's funny because that's a saying we used to use a lot of times too. When and inevitably get somebody right that was resistant to the change or resistant to doing it a certain way. It's like, look, it's not my name out on that sign out there.
And I work a lot and have owned in franchise systems, and there are ways that there's a lot of stuff they mandate how you do it, and that's how they're a successful franchise system. Let's do it the way they say to do it because it works.
Exactly.
Our market isn't that different. Our neighborhood isn't that different. Like, we all think we're, myself included, these special snowflakes that is different over here. It's not that different.
I know, it's so true, right? And it's like, that's where you realize it's like, hey, we don't have to reinvent the wheel on every little thing. Like,
right.
Let's have some of these systems in place and just roll with it.
Yeah. And then have them not even within those guardrails, like everyone should go and do these tasks the same way. Let's all do them the same way. A shift and B shift, earlier or night. I don't care. Like,
exactly.
Because again, the franchise system's trying to say, like, these are the end result and these are the ingredients you have to use. They maybe get a little lax in the process in the middle, and everyone invents their own way. Once you invent the fastest, highest quality, meets all food safety standards, etc. way, like let's just do that. Let's not.
Yeah. Oh, well, I have to admit, this has been such a wonderful conversation. Do you have any other advice for business owners you'd like to make sure that we leave on?
How much time you have, John? The hardest thing for every one of us, myself included, was taking the first step to become an actual entrepreneur. The second hardest step is admitting that you're the roadblock. And if you truly want to grow, and if you truly, or just even not grow, keep your sales the same, but take yourself out of the equation a little bit so you could do the parts of it that you love. Like, I'm not even saying like you don't, if you're an architect, be an architect. If you're GSD, be a GSD. If you want to do the stuff that you love doing, you just got to like admit, like, okay, I'm the bottleneck and I gotta figure out a way to put people around me, to put processes around me, whatever it may be, so that I could get the juice from doing what I love, and or start your explosive growth. So just take that. When would now be a good time? That's one of my favorite Tony Robbins expressions. He's like, when would now be a good time to start that? Not watch 6 more podcasts. Not next Monday. I got a few things to do this week. I'll start that next Monday. When would now be the time to start that?
Yeah, and I love that too, right? Because that's so important, I think, for folks to really like, hey, there's no time like the present.
Yeah, exactly right. 100%, John.
This has been so wonderful, Mike. I truly appreciate it. And I think the listeners are really going to enjoy this episode. So I really appreciate your time today.
Again, thanks for having me. And that time went so fast. I thought we were talking like 7 minutes. And I'm like, wow, time's up. Holy cow.
I know. I love it. And we'll have to have you back on again so we can get some more pearls of wisdom that we can share with the audience.
All right. We'll talk about your ascent protocol next time. A little foreshadowing for the audience.
There you go. Exactly. Awesome, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.